guys, welcome to episode 4 of Touchpoints. Today we have our creative director, Bryan joining us. Obviously, we have the pleasure of working with him and his wealth of expertise in the creative landscape, and I think we've made him a little bit more powerful with the introduction of Acrylic's attribution and the insights that he's able to glean from those to make better creative. So, to start off, I have a list of questions for you. We'll probably get three of the 10. But first things first, I want to hear you share your journey and what motivated you to become a creative director, and just quickly introduce yourself as well.
Okay. I'm just still getting over the use of glean.
It's a good word.
Yeah.
We use it a lot. We use a lot of leveraging and gleaning and what's the other one? It starts with a U. You use it all the time.
Usurping?
No, it'll come to me. I'll probably say it.
So, how did I get into
Utilize.
Creative? Utilize.
Yeah, we utilize a lot.
Yeah. So use is just
as good. From a copywriter himself, people.
Yeah, you want to keep it simple.
Yeah.
Actually, I saw a Tom Hanks movie when I was a young man. It's called Nothing in Common. It's a very old movie. Jackie Gleason was in it.
Glee. There you go.
And Tom Hanks played a creative director.
Really?
And he just pitched his business, and it was a nice movie. I mean, it was probably 80s. But I was like, oh, that looks pretty cool. And then, cut to Boston University. I was in the communications school. It was really their liberal arts, but then I took a couple of communications classes, and they had a student-run ad agency at BU called Ad Lab. I think it was the first one. It was like no schools had advertising. Maybe Syracuse did, but
wow.
I did that and got into it, and then I worked at a couple agencies in the city, Deutsch and some others, and here I am.
Here you are. So, what drives you? Like, what, every day when you wake up, and you've been doing this for 20 years plus.
Yeah.
And you got to make more ads to sell more stuff to people that maybe they don't need, or maybe they do need, and they don't know that it exists. What powers you every day? What motivates you?
I mean, Beatrice and Millie, my daughters, for the most part.
Yeah.
No, I enjoy doing it. It's stimulating. It's like creative in advertising is like really solving a riddle. You feel like when you solved it. There's endless solutions, but when you have something right. All creatives have a deep desire for approval, so I get that, whether it's from you, your team, including Nell and some of the other people, the end client, if they're happy. So that's that external approval
gratification
drives me.
Yeah, I'm with you. That's why I like performance media, because I like the instant gratification.
Yes.
And I want to know that it's working right away.
Yeah.
And sometimes I have to bite my tongue and be a little more patient.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I had a meme account.
Yeah.
Black humorist, and it's the same thing. And you put out a meme, and it was great. We started, me and my meme friends, the memers. I don't know, we were doing it like 8 or 10 years ago. Like, sort of first, it was kind of bubbling up. But very quickly if the meme's going to kind of catch the current, and you don't know what it is. Yes, it's good, it's funny, but there's some other, intangible thing that catches it at the right moment, with the right wind and the right.
You're like a surfer trying to catch the wave.
Yeah, and that's what happens with the ads. But you have to trust it. You could say all day long, shit, that meme or that ad was so great. It should have worked, but it didn't.
Yeah. And
people don't respond to it, and the algorithms and the web and the universe doesn't respond to it, and you just got to trust that.
Yeah. Yeah. So speaking about performance and how it fits in and the algorithms and what we're constantly trying to optimize against on the media side, have we made you more pointed in your creative when we feed you back insights and data from Acrylic's? And do you think that you're able to make better ads for the clients, or what is your stance on performance marketing and attribution as a whole, and how has it influenced the way you actually create within the confines of the data?
Well, it's helped in a lot of ways. First of all, you have to trust it. You can't just it's like there's famously like Apple didn't test and they didn't care and they did such an amazing company. Okay, we're not all Apple. We don't all have a true unbelievable genius that has an inherent understanding of what people want, even if they don't know what they want.
Right.
So with
like Rick Rubin, who we're both huge fans of.
Who?
Rick Rubin, how he speaks
Yes.
to that.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
You have to create it for yourself, and if you do that, you're making something for the audience before the audience even knows they want it.
That's true, but we can't do that. He's making art.
Exactly.
He's making art, so he can. It's not indulging it. That's his job is to get the pure, unadulterated truth. You guys are doing that too from the data. You always talk about unadulterated, the data, but in art, you really don't want to worry what someone else wants out there that will, muddy your own personal truth. But you want to bring your own truth, your own style, your own tone, your vibe to it, and combine it with what you learn. And performance marketing and all the data that you guys deliver. First of all, certainly keep it shorter. All the character count helps you just kind of say your thing. I sometimes like writing a nice long headline. It takes longer to get out, but you want to drill it down and just make it short and snappy. Be direct. People have to understand what you're saying in an ad more than anything. And just because you don't want to be clever just to be clever, and if you're the only one that gets it, that's not good.
Right.
So it's really got to be a combination of what is true for me and my style and tone, and what's true based on what the data says and what the client wants to say.
Yeah, at the end of the day, we do work in client services, so it's that balance between what they're going to want, what they're going to ask for, and anticipating that, while also giving your everything to give them what you truly believe in, and at times stand firmly, and at other times say, you know what, we get it, we're going to do it your way, but here's our recommendation. And I think that always matters.
And it's when you first start in advertising, it's like you just want to do cool stuff. You want to be on the A team, you want to get the good assignments, and you don't even, I didn't think at the time that it didn't even occur to me that there was really a client at the other end that had a job that needed to sell the product that we were working on, whatever it was.
And answer to somebody else.
Of course, but we just were like, shit, I want to get that cool director. I want to just do cool shit. But then, when you get a little wisdom and you realize what's going on, and it's really feels good when you do something good and it works, and the client's happy. Everyone's happy when the client's happy. It's their money, it's their hard-earned money, or the money that they've had allocated, and that's the ultimate hit when you do something that you like and then it works, and that union of that set is
it's
success.
a good feedback loop, especially when you know that you've struck the right chord and you're moving it in the right direction. Which we've done on a lot of the accounts that you've gotten super involved in over the last couple of years. So
and you do a combination.
Drive better performance, and that's why having you guys and your team in place allows us to move a lot more rapidly. We constantly say to our clients, we're going to ensure that your creative works at the speed of our media, which I think you've really helped us do, obviously, and we continue to scale that out and make newer, better ads based on what we're seeing work, and we set up more tests with more controls and more variables, and we're literally always testing. So, so the difference between the world when you were working at creative shops, and that was the pure focus, to the transition you've made recently where you're working with AI and you're working at a company that at its core is a tech company, right? We have an attribution product, we push all of our customers to believe in that, and we optimize around it. How has that shifted the way you think about creative, or has it, and how has it changed your approach?
It's made me more aware of how the business works, and that you really need to be dialed into specific messages and to communicate clearly, which is probably something I didn't know. I think I was probably trying to please myself, honestly, too much as a creative when I was younger. And now I want to just do what's going to sell more business internet for MediaCom, or more press juice for Suja, let's say. But the approach is I guess the motivation isn't any different. It may be more important for a very emotional brand like IKEA, who has a very rational offering.
Right.
But I think it's what you want to do is you do want to connect with the people. They're still human beings. See, these are ads at the end, and it's people seeing them. So what we do here, when I worked at Deutsche, everything had to be just so, there was such everything that going out the door had to be great.
Yep.
And it still has to be great here, but great, there's a little bit of a difference
Totally.
there. But bringing, the creative is just another dial that we could turn here, you know what I mean? And I still think that, I have to believe that putting a little bit more emotion, a little bit more connection, a little bit more relatability, just a little something so it doesn't look like it came out of a stock headline, or like these days, like it was written by ChatGPT, let's say. It just makes the brand feel just more human, and people, I have to believe that ultimately, even if one particular ad is just very, very rational offer, the overall vibe that the brand is putting out, if it's a little more human, if it's a little more relatable, a little more emotion, I believe, the whole industry believes, anyone trying to put good creative out there believes that makes a difference.
Yeah. No, and when we talk to the media buyers on our side who take everything great that you and the team give them, and then they basically put that through a funnel themselves before they put it live. So they say, where do the more brand heavy assets live? Where do we articulate more about our product offering, our values, ourselves as a total brand? And then in the mid funnel, what do we take that's more educational? So what type of ads, carousels, testimonials, et cetera, can we put here to move users through the funnel? And then that DR messaging in the bottom to say, great, you've seen everything. We know it because we fine-tuned it. And now we're going to hit you with messages that are much more direct response. So for MediaCom, promo, 150 MBS, sign up now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's all about that journey, right? And I think what we're doing together is marrying the two things. One being media strategy and fine-tuning the journey there, but really, really taking an audience-first approach to say, how does the creative fit into that and ladder back up to the overall goal? And at the end of the day, how do we make our clients look really good and feel really good so that they can bring it to their bosses and show, we sold more, we did it more thoughtfully, and on the dollar, it's much more effective. So we need to continue doing this, and we need to ramp up in these portions of the funnel, or so on and so forth. So I think about you doing this, like when you see something great. And I feel like when it, we don't do that every day because the performance and the data might not necessarily point us in the direction of something that is like that chef's kiss, like perfect ad.
Yeah.
But I think we've learned that it doesn't always need to be perfect to us.
No. If the client's got an ad that's working and you just keep pounding that ad and it just says, buy one, get one free, that's a great set of words.
Yep.
You make it look nice, make it clean, make it look professional, make it look on brand, trustworthy.
Yeah.
But that's still chef's kiss in its own.
It is.
Its own way.
Buy one, get one free is still one of the best of all time. I saw a post the other day that was highest performing CTA in media, skip now.
That's good.
Or CTA learn more is underperforming because people don't want to learn more. It's funny because, you'll have that issue, but if you don't have something informing your buy and pointing you back in the right direction towards the right audience segment too, those jokes are totally true. You're gonna see people skip now if you're not fine-tuning your creative. And if you take the approach that is, we made a bunch of beautiful creative and we know that people are gonna love it, but you don't have a team of intelligent folks kind of fine-tuning where it goes, then obviously it's gonna fall flat no matter how chef's kiss beautiful that creative actually is.
Speaking of learn more, I did a campaign for a pharma, for a drug, and the idea, the strategy was around the idea that people have been drilled in their heads to accept their condition. I think it was hives, it was chronic hives, it was a terrible thing. In the scheme of things, it's not the very worst thing you could have, it's not a life-threatening, but it does affect your life. Your sleep, it's painful. Anyway, so they were trying to think, this is just what it is. It's really not much I could do. Like, this is standard antihistamine. But they had this new drug, and they wanted you to kind of get the idea get that old thinking out of your head. So I showed an idea that was completely built around this idea of like the unlearn more button.
I like that.
Obviously went nowhere.
Yeah.
But it seemed really great, and they liked it, and then, you never, it was freelancing, and you never you don't know what happens with things.
Sometimes
anyway.
the ideas just get you a seat at the table.
Yeah.
They show that you can think out of the box.
Yeah.
But it doesn't necessarily mean when you win the business you're going to move forward with
Yeah.
that. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of validity to those types of ideas.
And it's very, it's very satisfying to come up with that.
Yeah.
The moment you're like, oh shit, unlearn more. That's like this global notion of learn more. It's like, let's just tweak that, and it's like, felt good coming up with it.
Yeah, yeah. So what's the most gratifying feeling you feel as a creative, other than a client saying great job? Like when it comes to your
great
output.
meeting, present, and everyone's like, oh, that's great.
Yeah.
It's good. Just like,
Yeah.
because you go in, you still, after all these years, you're still like, is this stuff working? You like, you feel pretty good, but when you have a good meeting, it's an enormous relief.
Yeah.
And release of stress, and
then comes the next steps. Follow
and then
up.
you got to go through more. Yeah, it doesn't last very long.
No.
But it's like a good, 8 to 10 minutes of
It's a high.
of relief.
How has, really put a better way, how has the
That's a good
the
question.
merger between brand and performance marketing either benefited you or limited you in the way you think about actual creative output? Knowing that you're always going to have to answer for the performance, and that's going to have to happen within 2 weeks.
Yeah, I know. I think, if you're competitive at all, and every creative I know in advertising is competitive, you want to be the team whose campaign gets bought by the client. You want your ad to work, and you want to have the guy say, hey, how did that ad work? And when the ad works, it feels great. So, again, it took some wising up and evolving as a creative person, as a business person, that's some real business acumen, to care that your ads worked.
Right.
When you're young, you just want to win awards or have people talk about your shit, or have it be at the time in Ad Week or Creativity Magazine, or in the one show. But like, I truly don't care about that stuff anymore. I mean, I've done it long enough, and I just feel like is that shit working? And if it is, that's great.
Yeah.
But you want it to, also look good and sound good, which it always does.
But for young folks coming up in the industry, young creatives who are entering this world that is very data-driven, but it still pushes them to be creative and thoughtful and come up with everyone wants the new idea. Everyone wants the Coinbase QR code. Everyone wants to be first to play on the new product. But how do you do that in a way that shows people you're different and you're not just following some data-first model? And how do you motivate young folks who are coming up in this to feel good and like they still are the ones leading the creative conversation?
I think you just want to put yourself into the creative. I think that there's, a lot of it depends. It really depends on who the person is, what they're after, where they're working. I talk to a lot of young people. It depends what they want. I think the agency world is different these days. It feels less, I don't know, something feels maybe less fun about it. It would be great if it got more fun again.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just seems a
Make
little bit more.
advertising fun
That's
again.
the one thing. I think all the data and the data you can't hide.
It's limiting.
It is.
Creatively,
It's good and
that's
bad.
what I was looking for. I was wondering
But
if
it shouldn't be. A great creator will be like, that's fine. I'll work, and because a brief is not limiting. It it actually is liberating. If you just like go do anything, that's like impossible. So a great brief actually leads to great work. But the data, has held more people accountable. I think maybe they think the safer thing is what's going to work.
Yeah.
So I think that they don't want to take a chance on something that may seem, more risky. You go sit in focus groups and you listen to the people, and then you're subject to these group dynamics. And someone's like, well, I don't know about that. But meanwhile, if you see this commercial or whatever it may be in the real world, in the middle of the Academy Awards, and it's this crazy commercial, you may be talking about it the next day, but it's in a focus group, people will be like, oh, that's weird. That's not my cup of tea.
Right.
So that data in general could be a hindrance, but done right, it's obviously a weapon. And I think the data, it's to me, they have to work together. Talking about like MediaCom, you know, the Nikes and the Adidas and the IKEAs and all these other great big brands, people love them not because of performance media. They get to know the products, but there's so much more to it. So that, you know, there's brand, you know, there's some sort of essence to it, and that should be in everything. And it when we work together, it finds its way, that little essence, even if it's a little BOGO ad, it finds its way in there a little bit, you know?
No, and I think that's like the glass half full response, and that's how I think about it too. You could think about it the other way, which I don't think is going to help anybody, but it could be the data's so limiting, it's keeping me from being creative. We can't sit in a 4-week focus group anymore. We have to put an ad on paid social, and 4 days later we have to tell the client exactly what works, why it worked, and make more of it. So if you're like an old school creative and you have this approach to not adopt and embrace, then you're actually just limiting yourself. It's not the data that's limiting you. So I think the way you look at it is perfect, and I think it just shows why you're successful and why you're able to evolve as the industry changes and shifts. And you know, for me, that's the world I come from. I'm a performance marketer. So my creative insight has always been somewhat limited into what works, and then where the creative light bulbs go off is, well, here's how we can create more of what works. It's a little bit different, but it still is the same thing.
Yeah.
So I like that you have the approach to say, well, I welcome that, and I'm going to use it as a weapon, but I am a creative. Like, I am still going to take the approach that I think will work, and I'm going to push the boundary. I'm always going to push my client to want to do more. But at the end of the day, we're always going to know what works. Yeah. And so you strike the right chord.
Yeah.
I think it's well said.
You know, it's an extreme example, but this unbelievable business of, what's the water, the canned water called?
Oh, Liquid Death.
Liquid Death. I'm sure he does some sort of performance marketing. I don't know.
Totally, yeah. But they're all brand, really, yeah.
Yeah, and that's, you know, so it's like, it's just interesting because that just grabbed people.
Yeah.
You know, and I wonder what he would say about it, because I would say that he definitely uses it. It's just that his ads, you know, if there's a 1 to 10 in creative or brand infused performance marketing ads, his are at a 10. So he's, you know, what if we tase people, or what if we, you know, hit them over the head with a hammer? You know, which one of and then we compare those. So it's still performance marketing. You're still like,
there's still analysis.
You're still getting the data and the analysis, but it's just he's probably not just doing the plain BOGO ad, but maybe he is. You know, maybe he is buy one case, get one free.
He is like,
you know, now that you know the brand and you see, should I get a good deal? He probably is.
Yeah, your retargeting approach can definitely diversify once you get people into the brand.
Yeah.
He does a great job of getting people into the brand at scale. There's a lot of shock value in there, but there's just really thoughtful creative. And thoughtful doesn't mean it takes 4 weeks and a bunch of focus groups.
Right.
It means they have a team of strategists, they have a great creative director, and they're just outputting so much. It's almost like there's two people I think of. One is Gary Vee, who basically just preaches output, put out content.
Churns.
But that's like Gucci Mane. Like, he just made a ton of songs all the time, and half of them suck, and he knows it, but he's just in the studio all the time. He just wants to get it out, because the more you put out, the more people have the ability to listen, and the more you're going to almost find that flywheel. And, you know, like
that's who they are also. I mean, they're both prolific creators.
Right.
You know.
But yeah, Bryan, we love you. Thank you.
Love you. It's great to be here.
My hands are a little bit clammy.
Feel that? Yeah, they're pretty wet.
It's something for you.
Shook a clammy hand before.
But yeah, well, we would love to have you back on. It's great.
I'll be back.
Cool. So yeah, thank you guys so much for listening to episode 4. Bryan Black. We'll see you again on episode 5. Thank you so much.